Thank you all for joining us today. As you well know, this is the Spring 2025 Accelerator Application Webinar and Q&A. I've got Wayne alongside me, who's our Insights Manager, who will be looking after the chat today, so giving me a helping hand and sharing any relevant links that people might want to look at or click on. So yeah, the agenda for the webinar is essentially the first part of this call. The first 30 minutes is all about presenting to everyone a bit more in-depth insight about the Accelerator Programme and its commitments. And then the second, and we'll also be kind of speaking to a couple of our teams on our current cohort as well. I need to mention that. So the first half, very much about insight and presenting to you guys. Second half is an interactive Q&A. So if people want to put into the chat some questions they have about, could be the program, the offering, the application, then please fire away. I'd encourage you to do that as we go along, and then we can revisit the questions in the second half. So yeah, for some of you, you may not know who Geovation are, so maybe it's worth kind of starting at the top. Geovation is essentially a part of Ordnance Survey. We support startups developing innovative solutions by leveraging the power of our location data expertise to create new and exciting opportunities. Together, we build geospatial capabilities and unlock insights that will power the digital economy of the future. As mentioned, Geovation is part of OS, but it's also set up in association with HM Land Registry, who I will touch on again in a couple of slides and kind of explain that relationship. But yeah, Geovation supported over 250 startups on its programs. Those startups have gone to raise over £155 million. We currently have over 2,000 members in our thriving ecosystem, to which I would encourage anyone, whether you're a successful applicant or not, to become a part of the community. There's loads of ways you can benefit from it. And also it's just good to, be up to date with everything that's going on within Geovation, about any kind of future opportunities or events, whatever it might be, even just speaking to founders, other founders or teams. I think there's a lot of potential there. So I'd encourage you to do that. Also worth mentioning, it's our 15-year birthday this year. So become a part of the community. You might get a slice of cake as well, I guess. So that's Geovation. And within Geovation is the Accelerator, which is kind of at the heart of what we do. It's about supporting early stage founders with well-validated problems, go-to-market of geospatial data-driven innovations. We essentially take on 6 teams every 6 months, 6 funded teams. There's a rare occasion that we might take on an unfunded team. But yeah, it's 6 funded places every 6 months. So if you're not successful this time around, there's always a chance to apply in the autumn, and that continues. So that's the Accelerator. It's run as one program, but the application itself is split into 2 tracks. You have GeoTech, which is a kind of made up term, and some may find that confusing. It comes from the word geospatial, and it's actually sector agnostic GeoTech. So it's about enabling the exploration of new market destinations for location data. So this is very much data centric, sector agnostic. So that's the GeoTech track in association with Ordnance Survey. And then we have the PropTech track from HM Land Registry, which, if Caroline's on this call, which I hope she is, who is the Geovation Programme Stakeholder Manager at HMLR, she might be able to give a little more insight.
Yeah, hi Ben,
hi,
I'm on the call. Great to see everyone on this call today. Yes, so the PropTech, as Ben said, the PropTech is supported by Land Registry, and what we're looking for is innovation in using our data in the land and property sector. So it's pretty broad. We're not specific on what we're looking for. So if anyone's got any questions in the chat or wants to reach out to me afterwards, please do, and we can have a talk after the webinar or in the chat. Great to see you all.
Thank you, Caroline. So that's GeoTech and that's PropTech. 2 tracks, 2 applications, but 1 program we run. So everyone's kind of treated as 1 cohort. The process from open call to the accelerator starting is as follows. Open call, as you know, is when the applications go live. The deadline for this is the 2nd of March, to which after that we will begin scoring. All applications are scored. And then on the week commencing of the 10th of March, we'll be doing sifting. So thereafter, people hear back whether there is success or not to take through to interview. And then we will essentially interview 10 teams for each track for them to then start for, 3 to be selected from each track after that to then start on the 23rd of April when the induction day is. So the accelerator offering, just to give a kind of quick overview of this, and I'll go into each one a bit more with a bit more detail. Sorry, the program is like the spine of the accelerator. This is the weekly commitments and the workshops and support you get in that. The funding is the equity funding, which I'll touch on again, which is up to £20,000. The network, this is in relation to our partnerships with OS and HMLR. There's the tech. We have an in-house tech team of geospatial experts, and the ecosystem as well, which is we have an ecosystems team, and it's ways you can get leverage from being part of our wider ecosystem and community. So the program itself officially is 12 months long, but this is broken into 2 parts. There's the 6 months intensive. So this is when you would have weekly commitments, as mentioned, which includes a Monday stand-up, where we get our cohort all together to share their kind of weekly aims and challenges, as well as kind of giving them the update on what's on that week. And then also in the 6 months intensive, you'd have a weekly commitment of either a workshop, a one-to-one, or a work plan. And essentially, I'll touch on that again, but yeah, you essentially have 2 commitments per week throughout these 6 months. And then the 6 months hands-off is essentially 2 check-ins, which will fit into the funding. I will tell you more about that in a second. But this is for people to kind of leverage as much support as they want from the program and still benefit from the offering if they need it. So this is kind of how a program might look from a workshop point of view and one-to-one support point of view as well. So month 1, we would look at value proposition, user research, and then move into business model validation. Month 3, pricing, raising investment. Month 4, mindful selling. Month 5, product marketing, and then ending with pitching, which coincides with our showcase event, which is after the first 6 months, where we get a room full of industry experts and investors and people from the ecosystem to come and attend for our startups to pitch to them. So that's a good idea, not only of the impact that we want to make, but what to expect as well. And so if you're not having a workshop or a one-to-one in that week, you're likely to have a work plan, which are bi-monthly. And this is a chance for us to evaluate your customer, technology, business model, funding, and team. We essentially cover these 5 topics to get a status update on how each team's doing, and to also see if there's any challenges we can help with. So again, it shows kind of what support we want to give and what kind of impact we want to make on people throughout the program. And so the funding is £1,000 split into 5 stages. As you can see, the top 3 stages are over the first 6 months of the program. So 4,000 when you join, 3,000 halfway through, and 3,000 towards that 6 months. And then that's over the intensive, and then over the final 6 months of the programme is when you have 2 check-in calls, which can release £5,000 at stage 4 and £5,000 at stage 5, which is the final instalment. These are project stages. They're not incredibly strict, but it's all about kind of retaining our relationship with the startups to make sure they're engaged and we're achieving what we want to with them. So the network, this touches on our partnerships with OS and HMLR. While there's no promises about, POCs, it's, it's not completely unlikely that, people might talk about these with engagement with, let's say, product teams and market teams. There might be some further insight about access to data sets. Again, we don't promise any of these, but there's always potential, essentially, and we like to encourage that engagement. Another perk might be as well, OS has a huge pot of funding for apprenticeships, which founders can tap into. So there's kind of stuff that sits around those partnerships, essentially. Sorry. Also on the programme is the tech support, which we have our in-house tech team of geospatial experts. This is for kind of technical monitoring, to kind of offer any advice about geospatial data. We're obviously associated with OS and HMR data, encourage it, but also they're there to kind of give wider support around data as well. And it's kind of up to teams how much they want to leverage that support. So that could be a bi-weekly catch-up, monthly catch-up, maybe your priorities change over the duration of the programme. It's kind of up to people how they want to use that time. And they will also be able to give you data access to some proprietary data sets to help you test as well. So the ecosystem, I've kind of touched on this already. Being part of the accelerator, we get a lot of feedback about kind of the leverage that it offers. So it's good for exposure, and using the Geovation name through kind of channels, and just being able to say that you're associated with the startup is huge leverage for someone who's just starting out as a founder. The community, always love a bit of feedback I received from a founder in a previous cohort that, the program is great and there's so much that it offers, but also it's kind of what you overhear at the coffee machine that might be the golden ticket to whatever you might be doing at that time. And then also hosting events. We have our internal events, which we encourage people to attend. There's also opportunity externally as well to be taken to some past events, include kind of like PropTech Connect and UK Reef would be kind of 2 examples of that. So the application, I've got some top tips for the application. I think it's important that people kind of take time to consider which track they apply for, GeoTech or PropTech. While they kind of get assessed in a similar manner, there are some nuances there. So make sure you're applying for the right one. Take time to consider that. My second tip is you will not be judged on the questions F6S asks you to set up your account. So we use F6S for our applications. They will ask you a whole list of questions to set up a profile, essentially. It's important, we use F6S and it creates a profile, but you're not going to be judged on what's in there. It's kind of, it gives wider context, so to speak. And thirdly, your solution is always important to us, but so is the problem that you're solving. So the first question on the application is about the problem you're solving. We've had many applicants in the past want to talk about how amazing their product is within this. Please don't talk about the problem. There's a question about solution that follows. It's important that we understand the opportunity that you're trying to approach. Tip number 4, don't worry if you're pre-product or pre-traction. The program is built to have impact. We encourage levels of validation, and whether that means someone's got a product after that or created revenue doesn't always matter. We want to have impact on people. We want people to come onto the program and explore their ideas and accelerate them, hence the name Accelerator. And then number 5, don't leave everything until the last minute. Unsubmitted applications will not be considered. Every year there's huge amounts of people kind of opening applications but never actually submitting them. I guess a lot of them realize maybe actually they don't want to submit it, but I should imagine there's quite a few that open an application, completely forget about it, and then don't get considered because of that. So I'd encourage people not to leave everything till the last minute. Set some time aside. If you're keen to join the accelerator, get your application done, and then we can score it. So now I wanted to move on to 2 teams that are on our current cohort. Alessia, if you're there, I was going to start with you. And just to give a bit of kind of a different perspective about the accelerator, I thought it'd be good to, interview a couple of teams that are currently getting accelerated. Alessia, are you able to just describe a little bit about Safest Way?
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
Ben, I'm here. Hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Alessia Gilvier, and I'm a co-founder of Safest Way. We are building mobile journey application that takes into account data on street lighting, CCTV, and crime to suggest safest walking routes. And we've been part of a Geovation current cohort, and it's a pretty great experience. But yeah, please, Ben, proceed.
Great stuff. And can you kind of explain what your preconceptions were before joining the program?
Of course, yes. So I think out of most of the founders in the current cohort, my situation was a bit more unique because I was super nervous that I was a single founder when I started the not technical single founder, and I thought, okay, they will not even take me seriously because I do not have a tremendous amount of knowledge on geospatial factors. I just had this big idea, and I was worried that I will not be taken seriously. But actually, I was not only taken seriously. I had absolutely tremendous interview, which I liked so much. It was, I think, few hours of talk, but I really enjoyed talking to Ben and the rest of the team. And then I was accepted in the program. And the first day of the program, I actually met my co-founder, which is not what Geovation is about. They don't match co-founders, but for me, just a bit of miracle happened. So if you're worried that you're a single founder, don't worry about it. You still please go through the program, and you still have all the possibility to get in, whether or not you have a partner or not. So that was my preconception, that I will just not be going through because I don't have a CTO back then.
For sure. I think, like, obviously from an investor's point of view, having a co-founder is always useful, and obviously from a capacity point of view as well, in terms of your skill set. But it's not like we don't choose people who aren't solo founders, but it's so great that you've found a co-founder to kind of help on your journey. Of your journey, what skills or knowledge have you gained that you didn't have kind of prior to the program that you've kind of picked up?
Definitely. So I think one of the biggest revelation for us was the monetization process, and how what are different avenues of getting a revenue in the route there. We were very settled on a B2C concept when I joined the program, but then after several sessions together with a brilliant team from Geovation, we explored completely different avenue of B2B, and now this is like our pretty much go-to strategy. We also learned quite significant amount of information of actually getting investment in. There is like this beautiful man who gave a great presentation on how to deal with VC, what to look at, what pitfalls, what danger you potentially get. You can getting into VC funding. So that was super useful. I would really recommend this session to go through. And as of right now, our current workshop is going to be on marketing. So we had already first short session to just discovery of our business needs. And I already felt like even this first 30 minutes was very useful on outlining how to deal with the go-to-market strategy, and how to deal with influencers, and what are the best avenues to build up this anticipation for your waiting list. So if you're pre-product, that would be very useful we are only going to be launching in February, but the team of the marketing specialists already gave us a very useful information on how to extend our waiting list and create anticipation in the users.
Great stuff. Thank you, Alessia. And quickly, last question, what would you say to kind of any aspiring founders who are hesitant about applying for the program?
I would say just do it. Honestly, you just go through the process. Interview is intense. You will have a lot of people to talk to, but when you talk about the problem you're passionate about, you will just have so much fun, so much pleasure. It's always a pleasure to talk to people who know exactly the field. If you're successful, honestly, I don't see any downsides here. You're gonna get a lot of value from every single session you have. It's not taking as much time as you probably expect. Yes, it's a mandatory sessions every week, but it's very, very useful. Also, you have a brilliant community around you. You have so many different founders who are going through the same journey, so it's a moral support on top of the knowledge gain. So just go with it. Honestly, just go with it. Don't be hesitating.
Thank you, Alessia. And yeah, we definitely found someone who's passionate about their problem when we interviewed you. Thank you for that. Yeah. And if I'm able to jump to HomeSalePack, Ruth and Simon, are you guys able to are you able to do a quick kind of intro into the business, please?
Yes, I'm Ruth Beaton and this is Simon Priestley. We are the co-founders of HomeSalePack. HomeSalePack is a platform that we've produced to simplify and streamline the process of buying and selling property. We're basically looking to digitize the entire conveyancing process kind of one step at a time. So HomeSalePack deals with the upfront information, but we differ slightly from other providers because we use AI and sector knowledge really to basically look at the documents which are kind of referred at the land registry. So they're like the backroom documents, and analyze them to provide like a full view of everything that's going on.
Great stuff. And what are you able to briefly describe what kind of motivated you to apply for the program?
Again, I think where it came in the program, we'd already previously been on an accelerator that was intense over 3 months, but this one we looked at, and when we looked at it, it absolutely fit hand in glove in terms of what we were doing with, the land registry. At the end of the day, we're a prop tech, we're solicitors, we're building something that's looking to, digitize that conveyancing process. So we worked with land registry, and then on our pack as well, we have geospatial stuff in terms of plans and land registry documents. So that was the real reason why, and we just thought it's such a great accelerator, and it's so prestigious. It is
as well. It's one of those ones you can get different like online accelerator programs and different things like that, but to get accepted on this with the number of applications and then the companies who actually get through, it's really selective, and actually you get this kind of self-worth from it. So it's kind of like if you're accepted, you feel like actually other people believe in your product.
There's an element of validation in there, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And if there's like a specific challenge you're facing at the moment, and how is the program helping you overcome that challenge is what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, so we're solicitors. We've got no idea on tech. Actually, if you could have Dumb and Dumber when it comes to tech, it probably genuinely is us.
Oh, yeah.
So I think basically what we found is that it's been really good to try and get insights in how we can improve our product, make it more streamlined, make it more kind of interactive. But also, I'm going to say it helps to keep us structured. So it's one of those ones where, because we've got other businesses, that we can get distracted. So it's one of the challenges we've always had, is kind of like something else would come along and that would take our attention away, where when we're accountable, we have to do stuff, which has just helped us to.
And that gives you that, it gives you that discipline to make sure you're moving your product and your idea along. That's always a challenge. And again, the challenge is that like we said, we're not tech people. So actually don't be put off if you sat here on this call and you're not actually very technically aware, and then just look at us, because in reality we have got no idea. The amount of times we can't get on to Teams is.
I really genuinely thought that something was going to go wrong when I tried to log on here.
So don't.
We're grateful you're on here anyway. Yeah.
The support is there, you know, with the support we've had from Geovation and the Land Registry in terms of the tech. They can put them in touch with our tech support with theirs to make sure that we can get the most out of it.
And quickly, I'm conscious of time, so I'm just going to ask, what does it mean to be a part of a cohort of founders who are on the same programme?
It's just amazing. Like the support within the group, you know, everyone's there. Everyone's got each other's back. You know, we're not even based in London. We go to London a lot, but just the interaction and
it's one of those, isn't it? I think once you're in a cohort and you're in there and you've all got something that you're trying to do, people are all at different stages, have different levels of experience in some areas. Like we would rely on some of the cohort to turn around and go, you know, for instance, one of the cohort is dealing with flooding. Well, flooding is part of our pack. So we're going, how do you find that information? How do you get that? So then there's an element of coming back to us.
Everyone's there.
So there's an element of, and this is done offline. This isn't all structured as part of the Geovation. As you go through it, you get those relationships benefit, and you think, well, hang on, they know about that. How can I use that? So people will ask us. And that's that community is really important, and it's something, to be fair, we didn't appreciate. We had on the last accelerator that, but it was a lot shorter. But it's about building lasting relationships. You can see here, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you guys. You guys are definitely an asset to our cohort, which is great.
Thank you.
And thank you, Ruth and Simon. It's worth noting as well that, you know, as you guys touched on, that although we have the hub in London, we want to keep the accelerator very open to everyone. The focus is kind of England, Wales, but, you know, we want people to have an experience where they can get the most out of the accelerator no matter where they are. So keeping it inclusive is what I'm trying to say, which is great. So thank you, Ruth and Simon, for that. At this point, this isn't strictly feedback for Ruth and Simon. This is feedback about the whole presentation, and also about kind of being able to register for the webinar. So I'm just going to leave that up there for 30 seconds. Are those weekly sessions in the first 6 months typically in person or remote or mixed? Yeah, so touching on from what I just said, actually, we want to offer a hybrid environment. So we always encourage our founders to use the hub, but also we understand that people are not all based in London and doing other stuff. So we very much encourage a hybrid setup where people can attend workshops remotely. A lot of the external workshop providers that we use as well are remote, so they sometimes much prefer that as a method of teaching as well. So yeah, I hope that answers your questions. The other things, there are, like the induction day, for instance, which is the first day of the accelerator. We'd hope people all come in for that, and the same for the showcase, which is after the 6 months. So there's days that we would encourage you to come in, but they're few and far between, and we kind of want people to find the right fit for them, essentially. Ben Lowry, hi everyone. I'm hoping you can give some context on how much emphasis is placed on commercial scalability versus technical innovation. I think this goes back to, it's a two-parter, sorry. Also, how is intellectual property handled for funded projects? So if we start on commercial scalability versus technical innovation, it's an interesting one because it's a really good question. We want startups to succeed, right? And I think that's why we emphasize validation. We want people to talk about their problem, the problem they're solving, the market they're entering. But also, we wouldn't be Geovation without the innovation that's involved within that, and how geospatial data is being used in a compelling way, whether that's with other data sets in an existing market or in an emerging market itself. So I guess one feeds the other. We want some kind of instinct that there is being geospatial will be used in the solution, even though the solution hasn't been built yet. And I think that's probably something that comes from the interview process and the insight we can get from OS and HM Land Registry. So I think those the validation part, commercial scalability is important, and that's something we work on with you. In terms of like the innovation, I suppose that's relevant to that being geospatial. I hope that answers that. And then how is intellectual property handled for funded projects? So we touch on IP within the program. We get IP support. It's something we don't kind of rule people against IP at all. It's something that we let our founders explore. In terms of how it's handled, I'm trying to break down the question for funded projects. I'm not sure. Are you able to explain?
Do you want me to jump in?
Yeah, could you, Gareth? That'd be really helpful.
Yeah, sure. I mean, simply that all the IP for the program, all the IP stays with the startup. Sometimes we will agree additional work with the startup, so our tech team can provide additional support. That would base on a contract, and normally that contract will say all the IP will be transferred to the startup, so the IP stays with the startup.
Perfect. Thank you, Gareth. That was about again, I guess that was about kind of joint propositions with OS. Thank you for Gareth for answering that. So from Alid, is qualitative validation through in-depth interviews viewed in the same light as quantitative validation through surveys and A/B testing? Yes, we encourage both. I suppose you want kind of you want to be kind of doing as much validation as possible, whether that's quantitative or qualitative. We would hope that people go and use this user exploration with a set mindset about a problem they want to solve. But also, it's compelling to know how people have spoken to people and how they might have changed their tactics in how they're approaching solving that problem. So they come in equal balance, to be honest, and we encourage both of them. And it might be more of an emphasis on kind of what stage you're at in terms of your validation as to the amount of research you have done. So yeah, always encouraged. Thomas, I hope that's answered it. Thomas Willard, how early stage do you need to be to join the program? Do you work with companies that have a team and already have raised a product in the market that are looking at solving the problem in a new, innovative way? We like to work with startups founders who are very early stage. And I think if you've already got a team and already got a product out there and already in the market, it's a lot harder for us to have impact on you. And there's a follow-up question from saying, if we already have our product designed, can we get support on sales and marketing? Yeah, so essentially we want to have, as I mentioned, we want to have impact. The program starts with value proposition, business model canvas. It's all very early stage, and we want people to stay engaged with that. If we think you're too far gone, and we can't have impact on you, it may not be a good fit for the accelerator. But there's also teams that may be a little bit further ahead in certain things, but on evaluation, they're actually lacking in others. And that for us is opportunity to have impact. So if they're a right fit in terms of, which track they apply for, there are use cases where people, for instance, HomeSalePack, who we had on here, they had already built traction, but they obviously lacked technical ability. So there's areas there that we can work on. So impact is important, and I suppose there's not one size that fits all, but we need to know what our opportunity is with a founder and its team. And another question here, is the success criteria predominantly based on presentation skills or on technical and commercial validation as well? Very much on technical and commercial validation. That is very important. We essentially have the application, as you well know, that will be scored against kind of you know, the market you're in, the product, the team. We obviously want to work with great founders, not to give away all the scoring criteria, but there's the validation that sits within that is very important. How you present the idea in interview is, you know, pitching is part of the program. So if you're not the best at pitching your idea, but we think there's a lot of potential there, then, you know, we'll be having a very honest conversation. And we, you know, as Alessia touched on earlier, we're looking for founders who are passionate about their problem. And yeah, I hope that answers that question. Following on, there's a question on the application. If accepted, will you be committed to working on this startup full time? How important is this? Early stage startups often need outside income to survive. Yeah, absolutely. So again, we want to have impact on founders, and Alessia joined the Accelerator still in employment. And as she mentioned, she found a co-founder at the start of the program, which I think has been a bit of a blessing in terms of capacity. But we saw opportunity there, and there was a bit of a conversation about how much time she can commit to it. And I think this is another reason why funding as well is held back in project stages, because if progress isn't being made, then, you know, that money might not be getting used to the best of its ability. So we don't select people based on whether they've got other incomes. But again, back to impact, can we accelerate them? Will they be making good use of the money, etc., etc.? It's not one, like I said earlier, it's not one size that fits all. I hope that answers that. And now to a short question: what makes a standout application? It's all kind of stuff we've covered, right? Levels of validation, really important. People that are passionate about their problem, people that have gone out there, spoken to loads of people, conducted loads of research. We don't mind if I can tell you what a standout bad application is as well, is one that wants to talk about AI. I read an application for the last cohort, and there was one application that mentioned AI about 40 times. I mean, it's great that we mention AI and very important to a lot of people's solutions, but I think some people like to pick up on buzzwords, and we're not, you know, we want to know more about kind of people's processes and who they are. So yeah, passionate founders who have a clear and honest understanding of where they're at are probably the best applications, I reckon. Is there another opportunity to practice our pitching with the Geovation team before the deadline? I noticed the pitching sessions today clashed with this session. Yes, Salad. So there's Pitch Club today. This is why I'd encourage people to become a part of the ecosystem. So we have events such as Pitch Club on. Although we don't need you to practice your pitching at this stage. So this is very much about the application itself. From then, your application will be scored. I also get asked a lot, would it matter if I didn't put in a pitch deck? We don't need a pitch deck either. Pitch decks are great for giving wider context if you want to add one, but this is all about the application. And it's we hope to think in interview as well. There's a 5-minute pitch, but I promise you 5 minutes goes so quickly if you're just talking about your business and just introducing it. It's a way of introducing your idea. And yeah, the interview will be much more about the questions we're asking, which hopefully you will have the answers for and be able to, you know, dig into what we would like to find out more about. I hope that answers your question. Are there any more questions in Slack? There's no more in the chat. So I would encourage people as well to go on our website. If you haven't opened your application already, you can do so by clicking apply on the Geovation website. Also, if you wanted to become part of the ecosystem, click community and you can do that. And like I had mentioned, you can hear about events and join our Slack channels, for instance. Wayne's just shared that in the chat, which is great. Gareth, I see you've got your hand raised.
I was going to say, did you answer the question over in the Q&A section from Amandeep on the list of data sets that could be made available through the programme?
Sorry, we missed one. Sorry, 2 seconds.
It was on Q&A rather than chat. It was, is there a list of what data sets could be made available through the programme?
They're essentially on the OS website, or are the data sets, which may be more in relation to GeoTech and PropTech. You can go on the HMLR website as well.
You want me to talk through that one? I can take that if you want.
Could you, Lewis? Thank you, Lewis. This is our tech lead.
Hi, everyone. So in terms of Ordnance Survey data sets, it's everything available as a commercial product. So things like our new National Geographic database, anything to do with height, topology, point of interest data, as well as imagery. Then in terms of National Geographic database data, it's things like buildings, sites, water, roads, and that's available for 20 sample areas around the UK. Caroline, did you want to talk about Land Registry data and National Polygon Service?
Yeah, please, Lewis. So the big benefit you get in Geovation from a Land Registry point of view is National Polygon Service, which is our biggest data set. And you can have that under a developer license for 12 months to test it out. That's the reason we put it into Geovation. If you bought that under a commercial license, it's £20,000 a year. So it's a great opportunity to test it before you actually decide that you want to use it or want to pay for it. So that's a big benefit you get from being in Geovation. All the other data sets are on our used land and property service, which I can put a link in the chat for. So one of the top tips I put, if you're applying on PropTech, make sure and there's a question about land registry data, sort of you need to have looked at what data there is. Don't just put not sure. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be using that data now, but just look as an awareness of knowing what the data is a useful thing to put in the application. But I'll share a link on the chat as well, so everyone can see that.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. You've answered that way better than I ever could. I think that's all the questions. Have we got one more on it?
There's one more on the Q&A, which is, could you explain a little bit more about the scoring?
Could you explain a little bit more about the scoring? I can't reveal all, but I think we've covered where we sit in terms of validation, founders, market, impact. I hope that covers it. We don't mind if you're pre-revenue, pre-product. We want, compelling uses of geospatial data, and compelling founders looking at those problems and passionate about those problems. I can't give you the full criteria. It might be explaining a bit too much, but I hope that gives a better idea as to whether it's worth your time joining the program. Yeah, guys, I think that's it in terms of questions. I'd encourage anyone as well, if they want to follow up, kind of reach out on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to chat to people. And yeah, if you haven't already, get to the Geovation website, start your application if you think you're relevant for the program, and encouraging all people to join the community as well, to become part of the ecosystem. Thank you all for your time today. Thank you to our founders that presented, and yeah, hopefully speak to everyone soon.